If you love a good deal, then you should know Domino's has an offer that you can't pass up. Order today and get any large specialty pizza for $10.99 when you carry out. That's right, any large specialty pizza for just $10.99. For the love of a good offer, get to a Domino's and get as many large specialty pizzas as you can carry out for only $10.99 each. Order using the Domino's app or visit Domino's.com where you can follow your order with the Domino's tracker. Don't miss out on this great deal from Domino's. Carry out only. You must ask for this limited time offer. Offer valid at participating Seattle area stores. Prices, participation, and charges may vary.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of S4, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast or reproduction of this broadcast or podcast without express written consent of S4 is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Because we don't understand how life formed, it is difficult to estimate this probability. The likelihood of a complex molecule like DNA being created by random collisions of atoms in a primordial ocean is fantastically small. In an infinite universe, it would happen in some places, but they would be very far apart. If we want to find advanced intelligent life, our best bet is to listen for radio signals.
Look up to the stars and the forests that surround. Do you see them? Do you hear them? Are they there? SpacedOutRadio.com presents S4 with Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and friends. Also, take the time to join the Forest Moon Paranormal Facebook group.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque.
Conspiracy, Area 51, Dogman, Ghosts, Cover-Ups, UFOs. The hidden will reveal itself.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go live on S4 with Eric Cooper.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4 with Eric Cooper, broadcasting live from the beautiful mountains of Concrete, Washington. Tonight we are discussing UFO sightings. Are they on the rise? Tonight on our panel we have Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, R. Keith Andrews, astrologist and alien specialist, Michael Hall of UFO I-Team, myself, Corey Reese, and your host, Forest Moon Paranormal Zone, Mr. Eric Cooper.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight on S4? Yes, coming to you live from the, well, it's kind of cooling off, but it was hot today. I think summer's finally potentially here. And for those of you that are local listening that don't know much about Forest Moon, we are at the Upriver Farmers Market every weekend here in Concrete. So stop on by. Also, June 13th at the Motor and Pestle Apothecary in Mount Vernon from noon to 5, we will have a Paranormal Awareness Day. And we'll be there to answer your paranormal questions. And to us, the paranormal is alien abduction, UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, any other cryptids, and of course, spirits, hauntings, entities, and anything that's not defined. Then, of course, we plan on being at the Skagit County Fair in August. We have our Skywatch with UFOI team coming to educate all of us August 18th. And what else? There's something else. There's something else. Something coming up. Anyway, we'll get to it. So tonight we are talking, and I bring this up because just last week, I think it was, we had 3 different sightings here upriver in Skagit County. And are UFOs on the rise? So what do you think, Michael?
I'm thinking that, my client and old friend Peter Davenport has told me that they are on the rise. But I think what's going on as well is more people are feeling comfortable in reporting them to authorities and reporting centers across the country. That's what's going on. Ever since the New York Times front page article, from the Department of Defense and the Pentagon officials actually confirming the existence of UFOs, people are going, hey, now's the time I can tell my story. Because it seems like everybody has one, believe me.
Are they actually on the rise, or is it because the skies are getting clearer? Summer's coming, the weather's a little bit nicer here and there, and are there other variables in there, or do you think there are actually more UFOs out there?
Well, I think there are a couple of variables, and of course the weather is a big one, especially in the Pacific Northwest out here, where we have, clear skies only in the summertime consistently.
Right.
But also, I think people are becoming more sophisticated now in recognizing aircraft, space debris, and the ISS space station, and those kinds of things. And they're kind of noticing things are a little stranger than usual. That's what I'm finding, and they're not as reticent any longer to tell their friends. They've got their coworkers now that maybe they can talk to, because they're not going to necessarily get ridiculed like they used to, or maybe have their jobs threatened for being crazy because they've seen something strange. Because if the Navy pilots are coming out now with gun footage and telling us what they found, various branches of the military are studying these unidentified aerial phenomena, then all of a sudden it becomes, all right for folks out there to just tell their stories to their friends and neighbors. And I think that might be happening as well. I see an opening up of the paradigm.
And I can get on board with that. I want to bring Keith in real quick, because we have a local case that's kind of up in the air, but it involves a goat cryptid, or is it an alien? I sent Keith a message here a few days ago. Is there an alien race that actually has a goat head minus the horns?
And the answer is yes, although the minus the horns is variable. They actually come out of what humans call the Capricornus system. And in all fairness, they're related. I say related, it's a little bit of a loose relation. But the Brahmin that's the bovine race. But the Goron are, and I did say Goron, not Gorn as in Star Trek. That's a whole different issue. But they are far more tied into the intellectual side of things. They are not combatants. Although, in all fairness, you don't want to fight. You don't want to force them into a fight. They're far more, if you will, socially advanced.
And you were saying in your message to me that they're usually not down here?
Yeah, they really aren't. And a lot of the reason for that is because they're non-combatants.
Okay, okay.
Let's face it, Earth is a little bit, shall we say, turned upside down right now.
Yeah, it is indeed. And, I'm not thinking, it's got to be an alien. Not by any means. I think there's a lot of different avenues that we're looking at with this particular case. For one, we're waiting for video evidence to come in from the client. And I've got her doing some other things, such as putting flour out to look for footprints, taking some audio recordings that she's got going on there as well. But when I get a case coming in that could be anything, we look at all avenues, and she's got another witness along besides herself that saw this being, and it's about 6 to 7 foot tall. So I've never heard of a goat-headed alien, but you're the one to ask.
Well, when they're 6 and 7, that certainly rules out the one option I was looking at, which was possible misinterpretation of what she was looking at and actually seeing a satyr. But at 6 to 7 feet tall, that's no satyr.
Right. Let's talk about Hungary for a second, because I know, different races, some races go all over the planet. Some of them are continent-based. Which races are based in Hungary?
Well, shadow walkers are all over the planet, so we can't call that based. I do know over in Hungary that you do get there. I'm looking at the picture of it right now. There is an amphib that is there, and all over that section of Europe. I'm just trying to remember what the heck they're called because they don't usually surface, period. But they are... go ahead.
This particular race was reptilian-based.
It would be. They're amphibian, but...
Okay.
Yeah, it would be reptilian. You'll find, and this is why I'm trying to remember what the heck the name is, but they're 5-fingered, they've got webbed fingers, semi-webbed. And the talons, they've got talons that'll cut through a leather jerkin without even blinking. It won't go through steel, but it will go through leather without a problem. The biggest problem is they're carnivores. And it's not so much that they will hunt people. It's just that people happen to fall under the category of being meat.
Okay.
But where you'll find them is near the mountain lakes, and it's usually the deeper ones. Ones where you can get into an underwater entrance to a cave.
Right. So this particular race only had 3. I don't like saying fingers, but this race only had 3 appendages.
Oh, you like 3 digits, you mean?
Yeah, 3 appendages.
Right.
They were very large scales, much shorter snout, should I say.
Right.
And had almost kind of a mohawky thing off them. They were about, about 4 feet tall? Something like that?
Yeah, it was 4 foot.
About 4 foot tall, and they almost wanted to be aggressive, but they were almost too confused and almost timid about it. I don't know. It was weird.
I'm going to have to get in touch with a couple of people I know, and I'll use the term people a little loosely.
and their implants were very unique. One of the implants I know the team was trying to disable actually moved intelligently away, which I've seen that on videos before as well, with the tubular implants when they try to reach in with the tweezers and pull them out, they move. This one was in the brain and actually moved away intelligently.
Is it by any chance a triangular shaped?
The implant?
Yeah.
Let's see what the team has to say in the chat room.
I can make that simple. Hold on just a minute. I'll go ask.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'll be right back.
And yes, it was triangular.
Okay. You've got an interesting problem on your hands.
Yes, the implant was triangular shaped.
Yeah, you definitely have a little bit of an interesting problem on your hands. The reason they're timid is because they're pack hunters, first of all. They survive by running when they figure that they've got the slightest chance of missing it. But the funny part with them is they're both hunter and hunted.
The client's already said everything's calmed down, so I don't know if we've handled it already or if they're regrouping to figure out what they're going to do next.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the good news. If you chased them off from the client in the first place, they'll go hunt down a different target.
Wonderful. And it's a matter of that client funding us to get help for them. But
yeah,
that doesn't always happen.
I'm not entirely certain if this qualifies as good news, but for your client it does.
Right. And her implant location's already started healing on its own. So our client is doing fine. But what would be the name of that race?
Those, you have gone into the obscure ones. What is this, out in the outback?
Well, obscure is what Forest Moon does.
Well,
you didn't know that by now?
No, I'm just digging out because I've been making notes on these dang things. But the ones I know them as, what you're talking about is Groban. They are reptilian, there's no question there. But they're also burrowers. Hence why their claws are built the way they are. Okay. But the reason they're skittish, well, like I said, they're hunter and hunted.
Right.
Okay.
They're not the top of the food chain, in other words.
No. No, that would be kind of like where the geckoids fit. They're more a food source than anything else. Mind you, they're usually deeper underground. So, and I have been told I was told by a couple of friends of mine the other day, just a couple of weeks back, that the underground animals and critters and cryptics, if you will, are starting to come closer to the surface because of what's going on the surface.
Okay. Do we know what kind of a craft that they fly?
Usually they don't. If they are, it's what's called a parasitic, meaning they got onto a craft that wasn't theirs.
Okay.
Like Norway rats.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, Groban aren't exactly, well, they're not native in as much as they didn't evolve here.
Right.
But they came here as carryover, if you will. Kind of.
I gotta wonder. How many? I gotta wonder how many species actually, like the rat left. There were no rats in the fossil record in the on the American continent until after Europeans, I think it was the Swedes or the Norwegians, came across and brought them in their ships. I guess Norwegians, Norway rat. So how many these cryptids and strange animals that just don't seem to be in high enough numbers to be seen regularly. How many of those are the same thing?
Well, I can't give
the
you
Norway
an
rats of space.
Well, the chupacabra is not from around here. This little munchkin is, and I would have to rough guess, say you're probably looking at a dozen or dozen and a half anyway. But we are talking about things like, dropping a cat off in the middle of of a swamp and it surviving. It's not like you're going to see a lot of them.
Another thing that Donna brought up, the night of the case, because I usually watch the cases as they progress, if depending on what time of the day it is, but they seem very, I guess, annoyed or surprised that the team was even there. And that's actually common with a lot of these races. They don't expect humans, for one, to come astral. And they're like, well, what the hell are you guys doing? Oh my God. And this particular race, of all of them, was, confused.
Well,
I guess is the easiest way to say it.
Yeah, and if you think about it from their standpoint, humans are, sad to say, but by most races' standard, humans are dumber than a bag of fence posts. So the fact that they can show up in places where they shouldn't have been able to get to in the first place, never mind find them, it's no wonder they're a little confused, skittish, uneasy. There's a whole lot of words that go with it.
Right. So that particular case is, we're never closed, but calm now. So moving on.
Not likely to be an issue.
Right. Until the next person in Hungary contacts us. Now, I'm going to move this conversation up a notch and ask you, because we know UFOs seem to be on the rise. Are abductions going to be on the rise along with these UFO sightings?
Well, here's the problem. Number one, the rise, and this is part where an astronomer would be really handy. It is a proven fact that every time Mars gets closer, the UFO sightings tend to just about triple. I would be curious to know exactly how close Mars is at this point as far as the apogee goes. That said, I think it's the apogee, it might be the perigee, but that said, yes, you will find from a percentage standpoint, you will find an increase of approximately the same rate. The problem is, it's not so much that there is a substantial rise in UFOs as there is a substantial increase in acceptance of the possibility and therefore reporting thereof. That's much more the issue.
And, honestly, that's why we're trying to get the Forest Moon name out there more. Because unlike many teams, we actually go head on and deal with abductions and UFOs and Bigfoot. It came out quite perfectly last weekend when I had a guy come to our booth and ask, oh, so you guys are ghost hunters? Like, really? No. We're Forest Moon Paranormal. We're not Forest Moon Ghost Hunters. Paranormal. Which, to us, paranormal is everything. Not ghosts, not spirits, not just Bigfoot, not just UFOs. We cover the whole spectrum. And unfortunately, for many clients, it's hard to find a team that deals with UFOs and abduction, which is why we're trying to get out there more for that reason. But, and with these on the rise, it's all the more important.
Yeah, because you're going to find there's an awful lot of people, There's a lot of people that are going to go into a bit of a panic state because, as the saying goes, it's better to think you saw something and question it than know you saw something and question your mind.
Right. Exactly. Now, Michael, is there a specific UFO type that you're seeing a rise in? Whether it's a cigar shape, whether it's just a standard flying saucer, a triangular shape, is there any kind of pattern?
Yeah, I believe that the probably the triangle shaped craft are probably on the rise nowadays. Matter of fact, there's been a lot of speculation that some of the not really large craft, but some of the medium-sized craft, let's say maybe 50 to 100 feet on a side, could be a military craft that has been reverse engineered. There's obvious, they call them TR-3Bs. That might have been what was sighted over Belgium in the early 90s. And those things have been very popular lately. I remember Art Bell mentioning that was his sighting that he had, was a giant triangular craft that was silent and hovered right over his head, probably at treetop level one night, and he was flabbergasted to see it. Matter of fact, we had the UFO I-Team had a report from Glacier, Washington, of a motorcycle Harley-Davidson guy who says he saw a glowing triangular but actually pyramidal shape craft. It looked like a triangle from the ground when he's looking up. When it went off to the side, he noticed that it was actually a three-sided pyramid glowing in an orange color. So that's very strange, but that's another triangular craft that seems to be very popular nowadays. And these things are totally silent. They might have large or larger lights on the equilateral corners, but they don't give off any noise, other than sometimes people that were very close to them have said that it might be a hum or some kind of a feeling of a vibration that they do hear when it goes by. And I've even heard stories of them cloaking themselves, where someone says they saw it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of blinked out. It didn't leave. It just kind of like cloaked all of a sudden. And sometimes they'll see a little bit of a kind of like a heat wave kind of like thing that interrupts the atmosphere as it goes by, and they realize that it's a craft going by because it kind of disturbs the atmosphere just slightly visually.
Okay, Keith, which races? I know we've talked about the consortium. The consortium's got the flying pyramid as well as, I believe, the flying triangle. Do they not?
They do so.
So, what would a sky watcher or a listener be looking for when it comes to how you differentiate between a government craft, TR-3B, and an alien craft?
Well, we start with the idea that if you're there's a number of different sizes. I have yet to hear of the government putting the seven lighted triangles up. They usually run 5. But if you take a look at the wing lights, okay, they actually have 2, like right at the outside edge of the pyramids, like at the outside edge of the triangles. The government ones actually have a dual light on the outside edges, but it's going to look like one. But it's going to look like one light in all likelihood. but they'll appear as a slightly bigger light on the outside edges, right on the corners, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the first thing. The second thing is the feel is wrong. And what I mean by that, and the only people that will notice this one are the ones that can actually feel the vibration to start with. But
right.
there will be a very definitive, I guess the best way to put it would be rotational hum, kind of like feeling a wheel go around, because the actual consortium ships, they have something that feels closer to static electricity than it does to a hum.
Okay. Now, is there a significant light color?
Humans seem to go with almost a blackish, almost a striated color scheme. I don't know. I think they figure it makes it harder to see. But you'll find with the consortium ones, when you look at the ship, it almost feels like you're looking into a void. You're not looking at the surface of something. It's like you're looking through it.
Okay, no. I'm talking about the lights.
Oh,
the color of the lights.
Oh, my apologies.
Oh, you're fine.
Went the wrong direction on that. Yeah, they'll be like with Terran-based ones, they'll be kind of an off-white. With the consortium ones, they're more of almost a faded green. It's almost a washed out aquamarine, and that has to do with the coating with what they use for the front cover.
And that makes sense, because if I recall, the craft we saw in Iraq going over Syria had green lights on it.
Yeah. Yeah, they use an interesting material that is translucent, but it's not from around here. Can't imagine why not.
Okay, anything else about the triangular craft? As far as differences between human and off-world?
Well, one of the biggest differences, and it's a question of whether you get the right angle. Because on the ridgeback, like the human-built ones, have a definitive ridge on the top of them. If you're looking at them from the front, you may even see a ridge at the front lip. On the consortium ones, much as they are wedge-shaped, they're more, if you will, rounded, kind of like a properly made boomerang. You know, kind of like an Australian hunting boomerang.
Right. Now, you said boomerang. We'll get to that. Michael, have any of the craft reports that you've seen come through had any kind of markings on them? Symbols? Anything like that?
You know, more likely than rather than markings that are some kind of language or hieroglyphics. There have been a few of those, but mostly people would see some kind of. Some people have even seen rivets or bolts. Or I remember the Stephenville, Texas sighting of a massive craft that came over low at treetop level, and this hunter was looking at it initially through the scope of his rifle, but then it got so close, all he had to do was just look up at tree level and see this thing flying slowly over his head. He said that there were, rivets and not necessarily rivets, but something that looked like joints, put together in an actual craft. with different levels. You know, it's like the old Star Wars or crafts that go by and it takes a long time to get by it. You see all sorts of different aspects of the craftsmanship. Yeah. And some people have seen those if they've been close enough. But of course, the lights on there, depending on what time they see them at night, it'd be much more difficult to see any definition. But yeah, those are some of the observations that people have seen when they're up close to these giant craft that just hover.
No, I presume
Okay.
curiosity.
Real quick, we have a question coming from Trip. A good question. Why haven't we seen anything like the Arizona Lights since they happened?
Well, pardon my obtuseness, but I'm not entirely certain what the Arizona Lights look like.
Oh God, you want? Yeah, go ahead and take that, Michael.
Yeah, they were very interesting because it was almost as if, you know, our Keith is talking about, you know, a boomerang kind of shaped craft, but this one is almost like a very elongated series of lights, and I believe that there were 7 to 9 of them, and kind of a very loosely shaped, almost like a chevron shape. Not a triangle at all, really. And they all seem to be moving in formation and very slowly. Matter of fact, they were sighted. I remember at McMinnville a couple of years ago, they had a lot of the actual witnesses from the Phoenix Lights come and give their testimony, as well as Dr. Lynn Katai was there to tell folks about the documentary that she put together on the witnesses seeing this thing. It was seen in 3 or 4 different cities and multiple counties, not just Phoenix, and probably lasted for well over a couple of hours. And there might even been more than one craft that people witnessed, because they were seeing things at different times that were different shapes. So yeah, that's a fascinating sighting. As a matter of fact, our friend Peter Davenport from the National UFO Reporting Center was the first one to break that story and tried to get press coverage on that initially when it happened, and it was probably 2.5 months later, after the incident, that Peter Davenport finally convinced USA Today to do an article on the thing. And then, of course, it took off. You know, Governor Simonton got involved, you know, with the fake alien guy that he brought out for the press release, and all sorts of stuff hit the fan then. But for some reason...
Didn't the governor actually come out when it was happening and say, "Oh my God, look at that"? And then he recanted and he came out with the fake alien guy.
Wasn't it the other way around?
No,
didn't he make a joke out of it, and then he tried to recapture some relevance when his political career ended, and said, "Well, I really did see something." That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is some real interesting political background to that entire story as well. So Governor Simonton was kind of ended up being caught in the middle between probably the black hats and then the public wanting to know. And it was very, very gingerly handled on his part, just to kind of make sure that this thing didn't get out of hand, because it was so egregious. The sighting, thousands and thousands of people saw this thing, and recorded it. You know, there was probably more video of the Phoenix Lights recorded than any other sighting in the history of the world.
You know, I was actually stationed in Germany when that happened, and I remember sitting in the clinic watching CNN on TV. And when they were showing the Phoenix Lights and talking about it on the news.
Wow. Yeah, it was definitely a worldwide, story that just took off. But like I said, it took Peter Davenport probably 2.5 months to get anybody even pay attention to it. Then, of course, they come out and they say it was a National Guard training operation, dropping flares, the whole thing.
Yeah, they try to say it was geese reflecting off the moon, or it was military flares, and yeah, it was a bunch of crap.
Geese reflecting off the moon? What kind of geese are we dealing with nowadays?
Right.
The ones from over by Fukushima.
Yeah, they're glow-in-the-dark ones. No, the issue that I'm looking at there, number one, you're not dealing with a single ship. That's right off the bat. You were dealing with formation, which is why it was varied that's why it didn't have quite as solidly a line. But when you're looking at it being seen for that long, there's no question they wanted to be seen. They wanted to make a statement at that point that, hey, you guys are not alone, so you might want to start thinking. Didn't work out quite as well as they would have liked.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Keith, you're right. There was a story that, or a theory that this was a push by the off-worlders to get the attention of the authorities, saying that, hey, if you don't disclose something or start the process, we have the capability of just showing up over the skies of major cities anytime we want. And that was one of the theories that why this thing was such an egregious sighting.
It's also why you haven't seen it since. They haven't needed to.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, we're still talking about it how many years later? Kind of like somebody like Roswell. I've still always kind of figured that Roswell was I don't know how the proper term is, but was a deliberate show. It wasn't accidental. The crash wasn't. I think the loss of life was, but I think that was a planned. My logic being that look at the technological advances that were already happening with our technology. Then you add this, we were right on the cusp of the solid state era. Here comes this thing, and you've got alien tech plus our own burgeoning electronics that was just expanding wildly at the time. That was a perfect time to inject themselves.
Well, I do agree with the timing, although I also know that the thing was an accident. It wasn't set up by the off-worlders, that's for certain. The loss of life was definitely an accident.
Well, I'd heard somebody, and with all due respect, I'm not just trying to argue, but I'm going from what it was a previous guest. I'm trying to remember that there was a prohibition against, basically they were doing a workaround. They have their own version of the Prime Directive, and the Roswell crash was their way of working around it. But the saucers weren't supposed to, the occupants were supposed to live through it. That part, something went wrong. Our radars interfered, or, the ships were going to be found and reverse engineered anyway. And it was a workaround.
Right.
It's like, well, we can't directly land and say, here, have some of our tech, but, oh, shoot, we crashed. Bummer. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So let's throw. Okay, we got plenty of time for another question. Do we have? You saw it in popular science back in the 60s and 70s. Do we actually have human-made flying saucers?
Who are you asking?
Anyone.
Well,
do we have flying saucers? I mean,
yeah.
Our own. I don't see how we could be fiddling around with that crap since 47 and not have figured out at least the rudiments.
They've got the basics. It's the drive that they haven't figured out yet.
Well,
And,
they should.
In fairness, their anti-gravity system is backwards.
So what do you think about Antarctica and Admiral Byrd?
Cold.
Well, no, they actually had the Nazis with flying saucers with the swastika on them.
Well,
do you
I've
think
heard
that was
that Operation Snowball or whatever it was, a task force. What I find more interesting about Admiral Byrd is his own. Okay, we're looking at a guy that was a hero, and he's an admiral. He doesn't have to come up with this wild, crazy stuff to find self-realization. He's already there. And, he's claimed that I find his Hollow Earth experience much more intriguing than the Nazis in the Antarctica thing, because the Navy went to a lot of, they tried to say he was demented because of the fumes from his cook stove type of thing.
Right.
They tried to discredit him when he mentioned about flying over the entrance to the Hollow Earth.
They love discrediting. Look at Bob Lazar. Look at Admiral Byrd. Anytime anyone brings up something that sounds kind of far-fetched and is very possible, all of a sudden they're discredited.
And that is, when with people sweeping in that fast to discredit somebody, from my standpoint, it usually makes me ask why.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we already know that Hitler was in contact with the off-worlders during World War II. What most people don't realize is so are most of the rest of the superpowers.
Keith, I got a question. I just want
sure.
With the Foo Fighters, that not the band, but the World War II these ships that seem to they never harmed. I don't think there's any record of a Foo Fighter actually bringing down an Allied aircraft, but they did sort of harass them. Who were those? What were those ships? They were apparently non-combative, but they could do all kind of they literally fly circles around the B-17s and the 24s that were doing the bomb runs.
Well, that's the funny part about it.
They seem to be observers, but nobody took credit for them.
Nobody
could take credit for them because they weren't from here.
Right.
Okay, they weren't. Okay, because I'd heard somebody say one time that those were Nazi backing, and I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. That the Nazis were that superior. If they had that kind of aircraft, we'd all be goose-stepping and speaking German right now.
Right.
Exactly. No, the Foo Fighters were off-world, but it was a perfect opportunity to take a look at the maneuverability and the technological advancements that were being made by both sides of the war, because they could outmaneuver the weaponry, and they were not permitted to actually take out the ships, which is why they kept just far enough away so as to avoid collision. If there was somebody that got shot in the middle of it, it didn't matter, like somebody as far as the Nazis, the Axis, or the Allies. Right. But it was a way for them to come in and get firsthand insight and firsthand, if you will, history lessons, sociological lessons of a burgeoning air dominance. And just see how humans were going to work with it.
Keith, so Tripp's got a question for you. If the off-worlders were contacting Hitler, how come they, and we know the off-worlders are more interested in the planet than they are the human civilization. I understand that. Right. But Trip wants to know, if the off-worlders were contacting Hitler, how come they let him kill so many innocent people?
Well, number one, they didn't. Number two, they were contacting him and like I said, it wasn't just him they were contacting. They were also contacting the other superpowers. And the issue that was going on was not on the combat, it was on the health side of it. They were actually trying to work against the whole thing, but because of the fact that humans are designated as the caretakers of this planet, they could not say, you can't have the fight. All they could do was say, this is a bad idea and it's not going to work out the way you want. Okay, so it's not a question of them letting him, well, I guess technically it is, from the standpoint of they were told they can't stop it. Like they could not directly go in and go, ain't going to happen. Because the war itself wasn't going to do enough damage to the planet or to the database on the planet for them to have to step in.
Okay. No, I want to jump. We're getting close to the top of the hour, but we know the U.S. government or the human governments have triangular-shaped craft. Is there any other terrestrial craft we know of? Do we have any cigar-shaped craft, or are they all off-world?
Those are off-world. Like, I'm presuming you're referring to cigar-shaped that are airborne.
Right.
Yeah. No. They do have saucer shape, but the maneuverability isn't even close to what they would like it to be, and they can't get the altitude they're looking for.
Right, 3 to 4 feet off the ground, I believe somebody in the chat room said, is about the highest we've gotten. Unless you know of another one that we've gotten up there.
Well, I know they haven't let it out, but I know they've got it up to dang near 18 feet inside the hangar. The problem is that they're working with gravity from a backwards perspective, and that's why they can't get it off the ground.
Okay. Now, Michael, go ahead.
They do have. There is another. I don't even know how to describe it. I can show you it. I can't show you it here. Right. But when I come out in September, I will bring a picture of one that, sad to say, it's hand drawn on my strong suit, that they also have, and it works very similar to the way the Hawker Siddeley does, as in a VTOL.
Oh, and real quick for our listeners, our Keith is our keynote speaker this year for Paracon. And you don't want to miss his lecture because he's talking children and abduction and the consortium. Other stuff. So you definitely don't want to miss. So what we're going to do at Paracon real quick is every year is going to be a theme. This year is obviously aliens. Next year is going to be Bigfoot. So this year is actually going to be a theme of aliens. So Keith is our keynote. You definitely don't want to miss what he's got to bring to the table. So anything cigar-shaped is going to be off-world.
Yeah.
More likely, and the second hour I want to hit on USOs. That's submerged craft.
Oh, okay. Unidentified, submerged.
Yeah, and we have a lot of Navy reports that come in. I know that I know Markham's talked about lights under the ocean.
Yeah.
Have any USO reports come in, Michael?
Well, yeah. I mean, we can talk about that in more depth on the other side of the hour, but if you're talking that Tic Tac that was filmed by the the gun camera footage of the FA-18 jets by the Navy. There's a story that hasn't been really told about the underwater craft that was this Tic Tac was hovering over. It was probably 100 feet at least in diameter, and it was foaming the ocean. So that's a fascinating part of that ATIP program that people kind of have skipped over.
Well, and we've actually had clients to talk about craft or lights they see going up rivers under the water. Underwater. It's not just oceans; it's lakes, it's rivers, it's bodies of water in general. And so, we're going to hold that thought. And Corey, go ahead and take us into the break.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. When we come back from break, we're going to continue our discussion on UFO sightings. Tonight on our panel, we have Eric Markham, RFMP scientist, R. Keith Andrews, astrologist and alien specialist, Michael Hall of UFO I-Team, myself, Corey Reese, and Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join us every Saturday night at midnight Pacific Standard Time. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. And for local listeners, you can catch our shows on KSVU 90.1 on your FM dial. That'll be on Saturdays from 10 p.m. to midnight, just before our show comes on live. Check out Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott Mondays through Friday, and Spaced Out Weekend with Joe Roop Saturdays, and Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson Sundays, all at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Check out The Fringe FM with shows like Lighting the Void with Joe Roop and a plethora of other good shows. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at SpacedOutRadio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at SpacedOutRadio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at SpacedOutRadio.com.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on SpacedOutRadio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com, starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed on tonight's show by tonight's hosts and guests are not necessarily those of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays, Spaced Out Sundays, or spacedoutradio.com. Listener discretion is advised. And now back for hour number 2, we have Corey Ruiz, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal, and S4. You can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. And for more information on S4, visit spacedoutradio.com. And now, here's Eric Cooper and Corey Ruiz.
All right, welcome back, everyone. For those of you just joining us tonight, we are talking about UFO sightings and are they on the rise? On our panel, we have Eric Markham, R. Keith Andrews, and Michael Hall. Welcome back, everyone.
Well, thanks for having us. And welcome to everybody listening in.
All right, so before the break, we started talking about unidentified submerged objects. And you were going to tell us an interesting story, Michael.
Well, yeah. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, there have been unidentified submerged objects under the water in various bodies of water, rivers, and matter of fact, the Great Lakes, Superior and Huron, and those kinds of things up by Michigan. They've seen those as well. But the major sighting that was not too far away, long ago, in other words, was I believe the Tic Tac sighting was the gun camera footage of the FA-18 fighter jets from the USS Nimitz in 2004. People don't realize that was a little while back that this actually happened, and now they're just finally telling us about it. And just to recap a little bit about that story, these jet fighters were, of course, part of the Nimitz contingent, and they're flying around and doing sorties all the time off the aircraft carrier and the support vehicles around the area there. And they were vectored to this one location where they had repeatedly sighted these anomalous craft, uncorrelated objects on radar, and they didn't know what they were, so they sent the jets out to look at them and see what they could find. And these pilots this is Commander Fravor talking now. He's probably the lead guy that you see on the internet talking about this event. Said that this craft came from 80,000 feet altitude down to sea level in less than 4 seconds. It was just amazing. And then of course it stops immediately too, which would have killed anybody if there was a human being aboard the craft. So now he's following this tic-tac thing, and that's the footage that you see, this thing moving along the surface of the water just above the ocean. Looks just kind of like a tic-tac. There was no, wings, no way that the thing could be, kept keeping itself above the water with any kind of propulsion system. They didn't know how it worked. But at one point it was hovering at one spot over something that was underneath the water. Something the Commander Fravor was saying was about 100 foot in diameter at least, and it was causing the ocean to foam and boil. And this craft didn't dive, the tic-tac did not dive into the water, but it seemed to be some kind of a communication process going along with this larger thing underneath the water. And so that's probably the most famous recent unidentified submergible object that we have seen, and that was in the New York Times article.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks kind of talk about the ATIP project and the tic-tacs and the gun camera footage, but they skip over the details that were given about this underwater craft that was also kind of in conjunction with this UFO above the surface.
Okay. So what races do we know are beneath the ocean, Keith?
Well, number one, your fairy folk, the mare folk. You do have, well, I was going to say dolphin, but that's what they look like. That's not who they are. There is also an underwater arachnid. It's a lot of fun to be around. And we'll use that term a little loosely. However, there is something that looks very similar to a crab that's under there. But the funny thing with them is they're almost translucent, which means when they lay down, you just about can't see them.
So you say translucent, is that kind of like the creatures you see in the movie The Abyss?
Very much. Although, in all fairness, they don't look like that. But that configuration, when you take a look at the
transparency,
of them, yeah,
like they were.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I always thought that was such a. I guess if you look at it, it was logical in that movie to have them so liquid because of the environment they lived in and the pressures.
Well, the funny thing is, the fairy folk, like the blue stuff that they show you in that picture, that they show, and forget what the guy's name is, but what they show that one diver coughing up, that blue liquid is very real.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
we've actually experimented with it in my field as a replacement for blood for, emergency trauma.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it carries oxygen, and I forgot what the problem with it is. There's some kind of, there's a side effect. There's a doctor, he's a pediatrician up in Boston, I think it was, found a workaround for that, and then his research got completely squashed.
Or buried, one of the two.
Well, you look at the American Red Cross. What does the American Red Cross main thing is? Them and the United Blood Services exist to keep hospitals in, donor blood.
Yeah. The thing is that the underwaters, like the fairy folk, they live, I mean, remind me, it's a long story, so remind me when I'm out there to talk to you about how the fairy folk figured out how to get humans down to talk to them. But the fairy folk are definitively bipedal. The merfolk are not. Okay, but the fairy folk do have the ships that you're referring to. The fairy folk do have. The merfolk don't actually have ships, but they do have. They've got interesting technology that can create, if you will, solid water. That it's kind of like a cohesive shield that they can put above them, so you can't actually see the merfolk themselves. All you're seeing is the solidified field.
Okay, we have a great question coming in from Crow. Anyone familiar with Operation Mainbrace?
Not my department.
It seems to be a naval operation. You familiar with that one, Markham?
Oh, there's me talking with the mute button on again. Oh God, that was I think that's one we were talking about earlier, where Task Group 21 went up to Antarctica, isn't it? Isn't that we started talking about that earlier?
We did
I don't.
talk about.
Oh,
I don't think so. I've got.
It was a NATO operation. I can vaguely remember that, and it was. I remember Eisenhower had something to do with it, and that's as much as my memory can pull out of its sock at the moment.
Okay, I'm looking it up a little bit. After 1952, it looked like.
October 2nd marked the 50th anniversary, so yeah, October 202.
You're looking at the same website I am, Dr. David Clark.
Yeah.
Remarkable. So what? Me, are you familiar with that one, Michael?
I'm not. I know the name. I've heard the name, but I don't know the details. Although if I heard the story, I probably could fill in some of the blanks once I heard it. But I don't remember the details.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick scan. I mean, the fact I found it that quick is absolutely remarkable for me.
Yeah, and Crow goes on to say, yeah, it was a North Atlantic NATO operation, a few sightings. They got a family member that told them stories about it. So yeah, sorry, Crow. We'll have to do a little research on that one, and maybe we'll do a show on it, or include it in the next UFO show we do. Give you a little more detail as far as the research side goes, and you could probably give us more details as far as what your family's told you.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Let's see. So, let's see. So USOs, huh?
I said making a note of it for later, right?
Yeah. And if you go back as far as USOs go, didn't Columbus actually have a USO sighting along with the craft he saw in the sky that was documented in his journals?
Yep. And that isn't as far back as you can go. Da Vinci and Leonardo both saw them.
USOs?
Da Vinci? I keep trying to remember which one invented the helicopter.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, that was Da Vinci.
Well, he had drawings of
he had
the idea
for it.
Yeah, it wasn't really. It would not have worked the way, or we'd have them now with modern materials. But the idea, he was thinking of Archimedes' screw and how it was used to make water move as a primitive form of pump. And he thought, air is just a less dense form of, a less dense liquid. You can use this, basically it was a screw-shaped sail, and one guy sitting there, running around in a circle would literally screw itself up into the air.
That'd be great if you could move that fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
Yeah, but he had no idea about like counterbalancing or anything like that. You know, if he tried to build a mock-up of it, it would just, I think it would just end up being unstable and go rattling across. You know, it would eventually tip over and then just act like one of those little bio-bug toys they used to have all the time.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the Fae real quick, because you were talking about them. So are some of the Fae actually off-world in origin?
Well, only from a technical standpoint. And what I mean
Okay.
by that is they got here before the planet did. So from that aspect, yes, they are, and you will find you guys in your astral trips are more likely to run into them in their natural state than you are than anybody else is, because they got here before the planet did. They're actually the Fae, as we know them here, are not an off-world race, aside from the fact that they started here before the planet.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Which is why they're the ultimate guardian of the planet.
Yes.
And so, you know, we were discussing in the chat here just a few seconds ago about how the Fae here are a pain in the butt. But, you know, that's relevant to the particular race you're dealing with, as far as the type of Fae you're dealing with. And so Trip was asking, is that partly because of what we're doing to the planet? And I would agree with that. The more we destroy the planet, the more irritated the Fae get. And for those that don't understand what we're talking about, the Fae is an umbrella for many kinds of, I'm trying to think how to explain Fae. Fairies, for example, are one type of
fairies.
Fae.
The fairies.
That's
Undines.
The old fairies.
Right.
Yeah.
Undines, sirens, Banshee, they're all types of Fae. Fairy is simply a type of Fae.
Are the Jinn in that group, or are they their own group? They were made from the divine fire. So they're kind of a different elemental.
I would put
I would think the two races, the Jinn and the Fae, we basically came along and took the planet away from them, usurped their positions, and now you would think they would just say, okay, enough's enough. You talking monkeys, it's time to slap you back into the trees.
Well, oddly enough, you're sort of right, but they didn't exactly usurp the planet so much as they bred faster than the Fae do. And therefore, they ended up with dominant. But the Jinn weren't from here to start with. Okay, they aren't native. The Jinn are not native to here. You know,
many equate the Jinn with the Mid-Eastern version of the demon.
Yeah, which is a cute thought, but they're not the same race.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like relating, enough to be said there.
A cute thought. I like that. It's cute. Pat. But so, are we saying the Jinn are not Fae?
That is correct.
Okay.
They have a similar perspective, but they aren't Fae.
Right. Okay, makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm watching Andy. Yeah, Andy, one of our resident Aussies. It's winter in Aussie land. So yeah, he's having a hard time listening to both Spaced Out Radio and S4 because of the time zone difference. I'm still intrigued, and I want to bring this up You know, because you have different, you do have different races that go all over the planet.
Yeah.
And I want to discuss which craft and which races are continent specific.
Well, the Quaddle are almost never seen anywhere but Central America and Northern South America. Okay, like they'll get into the Brazilian rainforest, but that's about as far south as they'll get, like into the Amazonian rainforest. But that's about as far south as they ever get.
Mm.
The Chitauri are virtually isolated in Central Africa. Okay.
Which race was in Brazil that actually crashed and got captured, and then their race actually came back to try to, because the Brazilian government captured them and turned them over to the U.S. government. The U.S. government's had that race in their custody for, God, I want to say since the 70s, maybe more recent. I don't remember which race that was, though.
Well, I don't know which one you're referring to. I do know for certainty that they have got a couple of Quaddle trapped.
Okay. And that was actually documented in the ARB, the Alien Races book that Dante translated, which is what I think is great. When you look at the ARB and some of it, you actually verify. And some of it's verifiable, but you just don't know it by the same name as what Dante called it. But
that's
the same
where
description.
I run into the problem.
Right.
This is like
but when you're looking,
clues.
But when you're looking at it from a human intelligence perspective, and you actually talk to these races specifically, of course you're going to get their actual name, whereas you know the human intelligence, military intelligence, isn't going to get the right name.
No, but they will think they did.
Exactly. And they put it in the book. They document it and put it in the book. And then when I'm sitting here describing you this race, you're going, oh, no, that wasn't the Tausetians. That was these guys, or, you know, for example.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Go ahead.
The problem I run into, of course, is not, like I've told people, I don't research this stuff. Right. So I've been running around with this information and looking at it, and the races are very similar. It's just the number that people have that I've heard of, oh, this is an aggressive race, and I'm thinking, like, they're not aggressive. You shot at them when you met them. Of course they were.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that old 1950s, shoot them down, see if they're friendly.
Yeah, you know.
1950s, try Independence Day 2 when, you know, you had the friendly race coming through and they're going, oh, we don't know who they are, shoot them down. And, well,
what?
Oh my God, they were.
Oh, I never saw Independence Day 2.
Oh, you got to see that one. That one's good.
It's an interesting.
We were shooting down a friendly race?
We did. We shot down the friendly race.
Well, that was...
And then here comes. Yeah, it was. I'm sitting there going, oh my God,
we shoot down a potential ally, and then the bad guys come back, and then of course we're like, oh, we didn't mean it. Help bail us out or something.
Well, that's just it. The silly part there, and this is why I caution people about the idea of shooting at things they don't recognize. And, you know, because some of these guys, first of all, they wouldn't be in such a bad mood if you didn't shoot at them first. Right. And second of all, with some of them, if you tick them off, they're going to kill you and then ask you who it was that shot at them. You know, I mean, you take a look at, just for simplicity's sake, take a look at a Strazazian. Now, if you pull the trigger on a gun at a Strazazian, if it's only a pistol, it's going to bounce. And if they take offense to it, they are going to slap you, which is not going to work well for you.
No.
You know, I mean, you got to understand, these guys carry around a mace that is about the size of a medicine ball. And this is what people are shooting at. It's like, well, You know, I mean, think about it. If you think about it this way, if somebody shows up on your doorstep and shoots at your house and then knocks on your doorstep to ask if you're nice, are you going to be quite as congenial as you could have been?
No, not even a little bit.
I'd have to say that would be a no.
Now, Tripp's got a question for you. What's the chances of having a gathering of races and try to get the planet back the way everyone it wanted to be, or how every race thinks it should be? And that's kind of what the consortium is here for, in a sense, is it not? And not so much for the human race, but keeping the human race from destroying the planet.
But they're too damn hands-off is the problem.
Well, the problem is, that's just it. They can't be hands-on. And in all fairness, is there a council that is working towards that? The answer is yes. The trick is trying to educate the human race that, first of all, doesn't matter what color you are, you're still human. Okay, so let's get away from the racism from the color side. And second of all, is the idea of the family unit has collapsed entirely, and this planet was originally built for the family unit. Family unit being defined as two adults of whatever gender or whatever race you decided, governing a house with as many children as the two of you decided on. Okay. But there's this funny thing that's supposed to go hand in hand with that called communication. And in today's world, that is a virtually unheard of thing.
Yeah, we don't even need to go down that road. It doesn't even go to the family unit anymore. The whole concept of humanity is gone. It just is.
But that is that's one of the big issues that I've been working on, is the idea of getting people working. And one of the other things that they're working on is trying to, if you will, guide people back into the idea that, call it what you will, religion is necessary, government is necessary, but number one, government has to be for mankind to get off this planet in a functional way into interstellar travel. It's got to be a one-world government. And the religions, regardless of what you call the people you're worshiping, understand the underlying issue is this. Religion is designed to explain the inexplicable until such time as science can figure it out.
Well, in order for you to get to that point, common sense has to be brought back.
Well, either that, or people have to. I like referring to it as rare sense because, let's face it, it is not common.
Yeah, perfect point.
But you are correct, but people have to start taking responsibility for themselves. And I know this is one of the nice parts, for their own actions, I mean. And this is one of the nice parts about what you guys do, what FMP does, is you go in there, when you're called to help, you go in there, and you don't just go and go, let's take pictures, let's say, yep, you've got a problem, and leave. This doesn't work.
Yeah, that's about 90% of them.
Well, isn't it about time, though, for the consortium to just, if your kids get out of hand, you put them over your knee and you wear their asses out? Or that's the way it used to be. Now they just become animals.
Time out.
Well,
but isn't it about time for the consortium or some committee or some group that to just say, I don't know, adjust course, attitude adjustment, something like that.
You don't really want them doing that. And
well, I know that they're rather extreme. I mean, okay, you got an overpopulation problem. Let's wipe out
Let's wipe out the overflow.
Right. Which is stupid because with their advanced technology, it ought to be like, okay, one of the things, humans are stupid. They will try to live where they can't grow food. You stand out in the middle of the desert and reach down. What are you going to get? A handful of sand. 1,000 years from now, what are you going to get?
Probably
A handful of sand. 1,000 years ago, what did they got there, and what did they pick up? A handful of sand. So hey, first off, either convert the desert into something arable that we can farm, or give those people U-Hauls, or give them a ride where the food is, or where they can grow food.
The drawback here is humans were given, all sentient beings were given freedom of choice. Every sentient race every spacefaring race has gone through this same argument with people trying to live in the past and move into the future at the same time. It doesn't work. But the reason they don't just outright come in and say, okay, you guys are screwing up. And there is that debate going on. There is a massive faction that would like to actually push only one button, and it would solve 3/4 of the problem on this planet. And it's called an EMP pulse planet-wide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I knew you were going there.
David Adair is really, really worried about that.
Well, the good news is that the people that are actually on the actual Council of 12 will not permit that to be done.
Okay, stop right there. Because this is exactly what I wanted to address. So you have a consortium.
Yes.
Now, then you have the Council of 12, which became the Council of 9. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Didn't become a Council of 9.
Right. Now, which council do we follow? I know they all have their own agendas, but who's the Council of 9? And we know about the consortium, but what are their different agendas?
Okay. The consortium, their agenda is very simple. Make sure that, number one, the planet does not get destroyed. Okay. And number two, by anybody. And number two, that humans, because they are the dominant technologically advanced surface-dwelling race, they are to be left as the caretakers of the planet until such time as something on the planet stops them from being the dominant race. At which
Cockroaches.
point that race will take over.
Well, no. I wonder, did that happen with the dinosaurs? Were they at one time the apex civilization?
No, but they were at one point very large and problems for the apex civilization. The dinosaurs were a side effect of, quite frankly, climate change. Okay. Simply put, the higher the volume of oxygen, the higher the density of oxygen, the bigger the plants, the bigger the animals.
Right. They couldn't exist in today's 21%, or it's not 21 even. It's like 14% oxygen. There's not enough oxygen to support their bulk.
Bingo. So they were simply a side effect. Okay. And by the time, with them, when they got here, the other races went underground because, there were human, if you will, humans, they were humanoid, that did grow at the same speed that the dinosaurs did, which is where you get the giant folk. Okay, and the giant skeletons that you're seeing periodically now. And it was the same issue. But the majority of races went underground where the dinosaurs, quite frankly, couldn't eat them. Okay.
Now were any of those dinosaurs off-world?
Well, yes, because the Tormenon, and again, we're still dealing with mercenaries. Tormenon have been here for a long time. There were 3 of the dinosaurs, of the primary dinosaurs that we know of, that you know of, that became, instead of just degrading into or evolving into birds, evolved into their own bipedal sentient race. The Pachycephalosaurus, the T-Rex, and the Dimetrodon all ended up becoming sentient races, but they're all in the Hollow Earth.
Well, Dimetrodon actually represents a transitional. If you look at the fossil record study paleontology, the Dimetrodon is actually a transitional species.
It was. It started off as a Spinosaurus.
Okay.
It didn't start there, but that's another.
Real quick,
Nicole. That's a rabbit hole for you and I to run down someday.
Well, real quick, Nicole is confused. Dinosaurs were a side effect of what?
Increasing oxygen levels. As the plants got bigger and subsequently the planet got warmer and you had better availability, the herbivores started getting bigger. Net result, there was more food available. Side effect, the carnivores got bigger. And then we had that little accident with the meteor in Mexico, and all of a sudden all that changed overnight.
What about the? Oh God, I can't remember. I'm having my brain's tired anyway. But the Tunguska.
The Tunguskan blast.
Yeah.
The Tunguska event. Wasn't that Tesla screwing with something?
Yeah.
That was an antimatter explosion.
Antimatter.
What?
Yeah.
Antimatter explosion.
What caused it?
Well.
Where'd the antimatter come from?
Not a good connection.
Really?
Basically, the magnetic field didn't hold. You take two particles, one tiny itty-bitty particle of antimatter and one of matter, which come from two different vibratory rates that are in conflict, and you let the magnetic field collapse because they didn't take biomagnetoelectrics into consideration of the whole thing, the connection all of a sudden created a crater.
Okay.
Okay, that was an accident. Mind you, in all fairness, the meteor in Mexico wasn't exactly done on purpose. But we're not talking about an evolutionary thing, or it was a deliberate, let's see what we can do. They didn't, by the way, intend on blowing things up.
Yeah, they didn't expect for the. Well, if they could ever harness that, oh my God, that makes our nuclear weapons look like firecrackers.
Well,
yeah.
This is
why we're talking Big Bang size power. Yeah.
Well, that's why when people do these shows, and I love the movies, don't get me wrong, but a human's going to build something to take out an alien mothership. Well, that's a cute thought, and it makes for a great movie, and a very short-lived individual trying to take over the mothership. But it's this type, because antimatter drive does work, and it travels a whole lot faster than light. The problem with it, of course, is if you don't contain it properly and funnel off the energy in a proper fashion, what you end up with is a dust cloud where the ship used to be. Mankind hasn't figured out how to work with biomagnetoelectric shielding yet. They're still working on magnetics and backwards gravity. Net result, it doesn't hold a stable field. What they need to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to get real complicated real fast.
Yeah, then we got to get into how do you avoid relativistic time dilation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You
and
leave
we
on
only got
Tuesday, and you arrive a week ago, and a week come back, and everything's gone. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Was that Cooper dropping off the lot?
Yeah, it's about time to lose Coop.
That's all right. I got him back. Or I'm getting him back.
Yeah, here he is.
There he is.
Yeah, and we only got about 20 minutes left, so we can't get into too high-tech stuff.
No.
So jumping back, so we have Consortium, we have the Council of 9, used to be Council of 12. Any other councils out there? We keep hearing about this Galactic Federation. Is that...
Who died this time? Oh, okay. Well, here's the problem. The actual Council of 12 never dropped down to a Council of 9. You've got another group of people that somebody's decided that 9 was a really cute council. And I'm not, in all fairness, certain which council they're referring to. The Council of 12 is quite literally a council designed, that is together to make certain that, if you will, the fabric of reality and the dominance of the different planets and different universes does not get overrun, does not get swapped out of consistency, if you will. Okay, and no, it's not a question of making sure the space-time continuum stays intact. It's making sure that the cohesion between the different civilizations and what have you follow a very specific set of creation laws. If the consortium is designed for this planet specifically or this sector, but their dominant concern right now, because of where man is on a civilization evolutionary standpoint, that's their dominant issue. And you do have a number of smaller councils that handle, shall we say, less conflicted problems on multiple different levels.
So we have these councils. What's with the stories and the theories we hear about the races that manipulated human DNA and made us what we are today? Well, is a consortium involved with that, or is it the Council of 12?
Would you believe me if I said? I was going to say, would you believe me if I said no? Technically, if you want, it would be because of one person on the Council of 12, and that is the head of the fairy folk that actually built the planet in the first place, because it was the fairy folk that actually put mankind together using the apes as a DNA, as a template, if you will. They accelerated the evolutionary growth of apes, net result mankind. So technically, yes, it was off-worlders, but do understand they were not built as a slave group. Some of them were used as slaves, but they weren't built that way. They were literally built for war, which is, by the way, why mankind is a little bit, shall we say, aggressive, little short-sighted on occasion, because they were built from a point and shoot, point and fire and forget people.
There was an episode of, I think it was when they tried to bring back Twilight Zone. The saucers land, and all the nations of the earth, all the nations of the earth say, "Oh, please, just give us 24 hours. We'll prove our worthiness to exist." And they sign this huge peace, world peace, first time ever. And the aliens say, "What a failure! We bred you to be warriors, and here you are showing us that what you really want to be, is peaceful." The annihilation begins in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes for a fabulous movie and a lot of possible offshoots. It just doesn't quite coincide with what the intention was. Now, granted, the speed of mankind's reproduction was certainly underestimated. And the thing that was really underestimated was mankind's ability to tap into the neural net and make things happen that, by all definition, should never have occurred. You know, man's will to live was not counted on. But
yeah, I think we have some new listeners over in Michael's chat room, and we're confusing them. my suggestion is go listen to archives and get caught up. Start from the very beginning, because you might pick up bits and pieces. And yeah, if you're just jumping into S4 for the first time and hearing what we're talking about, oh my God, I can see where you'd be confused. By all means. Very sorry for that.
You don't have to be crazy to listen to us, but damn, it helps.
Right. The consortium, what's that?
See, the catch is that if you're with listening to S4, you just have to remember one thing. There's this thing about, you always have people say you got to think outside the box. Well, I can't speak for everybody else here, but I haven't found the box yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's like, where is that booger? Box? You got a box?
I can tell you where the booger is, but, you know.
And real quick, I do want to touch this real briefly, because I know it's one of your pet peeves, Markham, the RH negative theory. So, the RH negative theory, where a lot of people get misled, is it's not a blood type. It's a protein that is or is not in your blood. If you're RH negative, obviously that protein is not in your blood. Are you an alien? No, you're not. Are you psychic? No. I know a lot of psychics that are RH positive, or have the gene in their blood. It has nothing to do with being an alien or not being an alien.
No, it doesn't.
It's actually, I'm A negative, and not to tell on myself, but basically the where it comes from is in a part of Spain. It's actually a product of inbreeding. I mean, now it has diffused through the population now to where it's not, it's not a sign, but the origin of RH negative is inbreeding, because in order for a person to be RH negative, they have to get two recessive genes. They have to get the recessive gene from the mother and the father. If you don't get both recessive genes, you're going to be RH positive. So it's not everybody wants to say, oh, it's alien DNA, or no, bullcrap. It's a deletion. It's something missing. So you can't have something missing being added from an alien race. That's just not how genetics or common sense works.
Oh, well, that was the other thing that got bred out. But no, I didn't even know where the RH came from, but I do know this.
The Basque, apparently, it's I don't have time to check it up in I can look at Coop's actually I bought Coop a copy of the Blood Bankers Bible, the American Association of Blood Bankers technical manual. So yeah, I saw it there. But it's all about it. It was a group of people who for many generations were inbreeding within the same family. Eventually, they spread out, and that recessive gene got passed out into the general population. But its original origin is from inbreeding.
Yeah.
Or, a very slim selection.
Yeah. And the neat part about it, just for the people that are worried about that being the target of some aliens, it is no more a target of an alien than having B positive blood. Because what ends up happening is the given alien will determine this is the research project we're going after, and therefore we need subjects that have Rh negative or that have B positive or whatever. It depends on what they're researching.
Right. And that makes sense.
You know, that's where you run into a lot of the confusion, and I know especially because your audience is growing, and especially with you reaching out to new branches and what have you, you're going to get people, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. They need to go back through some of the archives, because some of the topics we've gotten into are intriguing.
And we're about to hit our 2-year anniversary in July, as a matter of fact. So yeah, you got 2 years worth of archives.
Is that going to be the week I'm up there?
Is that who be what where?
Is that going to be the weekend I'm there?
We can make it that weekend.
That'd be awesome to do another live show.
We'll do our anniversary show on the weekend you're here. Because I'd have to look at the archives and see exactly which date in July it is, but we can make the anniversary show the weekend you're here.
Yeah, we can. Well, I don't want to steal anything from Corey and Donna's weekend, but if we could all figure out a way to do a anniversary kickoff, hand fasting, combine it all, that would really rock, I think.
It would.
It's going to be an interesting weekend because we'll do, the hand fastings on Saturday, and then if we would do the S4 Saturday night, and then I would have to get up fairly early on Sunday to go compete in the Highland Games. So it's going to be tiring at best.
You're throwing Kybers with a hangover. That ought to be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to make a video recording of Corey throwing a hammer in a kilt.
Now, I know that would be funny, but what is the point in dressing the hammer in a kilt?
I don't know. You tell me.
But what's the hammer wearing under the kilt? Anyway,
nothing.
We're just not going to go there. Wait a minute.
We'll leave that to the imagination. Anyway, it's been a great show. It's been an awesome show. What do we have up for next week? Next week, I believe, is Bigfoot and cryptids.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
Yep.
Well, I know that's what you were mentioning at the beginning of the show.
Is it?
Yep. It is.
It's been a long week. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone on the panel for being here tonight. Michael, are you there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, excellent. You haven't been saying much. You've been listening. I've been watching your chat room. You got people talking in the chat room. It's great. I like having two chat rooms going.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
And I know some of your listeners in your chat room were thoroughly confused. Very sorry for that. And like I said, if you jump into this show for the first time, yes, what we talk about is very confusing because we've been talking about a lot of these topics building up, or like I said, over the last 2 years between RH negative. Oh God, we talked about RH negative. What was it, Markham?
Oh
2
God,
years
that's
ago.
back when it was when the show was E4 with S4. What was it? S4 with E squared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, go to the archives, get caught up, because we did a whole series of alien races shows back. Oh, God, I want to say that was probably about 2 years ago, too. Anyway, been a great evening, folks. If you're local to us and you're listening live, because obviously if you're listening on KSVU, well, it's been a couple weeks. But we are at the farmers market in Concrete at the swap meet every weekend. Come check out the Forest Moon booth and say hi, introduce yourself. Always great putting faces with names. And on that note, Corey, go ahead and take us home.
Okay, I can do that here for us. I would like to thank our panel tonight, Mr. Eric Markham, our FMP scientist, our Keith Andrews, astrologist and alien specialist, Michael Hall of UFO I-Team. Join us next Saturday at midnight Pacific Standard Time as we talk about Bigfoot and other cryptids. You can find us on Spreaker.com, SpacedOutRadio.com, and The Fringe FM. And for local listeners, KSVU 90.1 on your FM dial. I would like to thank all of our listeners, because without you, there is no S4. Good night, and remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
You got a friend in me.
You've got a friend in me. Celebrate friendship and beyond during the first ever Pixar Fest with the all-new Pixar-themed fireworks spectacular and your favorite park parades. Celebrate from April 13th through September 3rd, only at Disneyland Resort. Visit Disneyland.com for details.
There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. You got a friend in me.
Entertainment subject to change without notice.